Good morning and welcome to Friday's Woman's Hour. High-end fashion brands seem to be targeting the grey pound. Those of you in the boomer generation who, in theory, have the disposable income to spend on clothes. On to the next item, which is about how much money you spend on fashion. Well, luxury brands are beginning to feature timeless icons in their campaigns to attract older shoppers with more spending power. Dame Maggie Smith, Charlotte Rampling and Dame Mary Berry have all been featured in adverts for Loewe, Massimo Dutti and Burberry, where brands would normally work with models half their age. According to figures from McKinsey, the percentage of baby boomers planning to spend on fashion over the next 3 months is up 5%, whereas for millennials, this has dropped by 6%. So the fashion industry finally responding to the strength of the so-called grey pound, the purchasing power of older people as consumers, or could it, as my next guest suggests, be an element of age washing? Well, Kate Hardcastle is a retail analyst. She's here to crunch some of the numbers behind this trend for us, and we're also joined by Alexandra Shulman, journalist and former editor-in-chief of British Vogue. Welcome, both of you. So let's get into this, the grey pound. Kate, I'm going to come to you first. What are the figures suggesting? Who's spending and who's not?
Hi, good morning. Well, absolutely. There's a shift in terms of the buying power of what you're calling the grey pound. I prefer silver. I don't suppose any word's quite right. But it seems to be oriented around the fact that there is opportunity to sell to that marketplace. And particularly we've seen within the luxury sector a need to be able to recoup and find new markets when it's getting incredibly tough. We know the cost of living is impacted on that. And it doesn't really take a rocket science to work out that when we've got a group of people in 50 plus who tend to be amongst those who are house owners, aren't as impacted, not everyone, of course, but not as impacted for their cost of living. There's an opportunity for them perhaps not to retire, which seems to be an idea of just going and hiding away, but to be jubilant and celebrate and travel more and get into fashion more. So that's the market. It's a low-hanging fruit. The question for me all the way through is the business is this another sustainability, greenwashing, another diversity, or a rainbow washing piece where we're just seeing these models just being portrayed in huge brand advertisements? But when you get into the core of the business, is the reality that an over 50 woman would be respected as equally in the boardroom as in the advertising? And I think that's where we've really got to do some digging, because the one thing I can tell you about over 50 consumers, smart, agile, emotionally intelligent, and they will see through anything that looks like it's fake.
Well, we've got a lot of them listening to the programme now and they're getting in touch to tell us about their shopping habits. We've got a message here saying, I have worked in fashion for many years and getting dressed every day has always been a fun, creative part of my day. I'm 61 and refuse to buy into the marketing campaigns that target the older consumer. The distinctions between age groups are blurred in other aspects of life. I don't feel genuine. It's just gimmicky. Love the Loewe Maggie Smith images, but no doubt they will revert to 20-year-old models in the next campaign. Carol says, I'm 70 next week. Happy birthday for next week, Carol. My wardrobe now consists of 30% much-loved old clothes and 70% bought from the charity shop. Anyone looking inside my wardrobe would have no idea if I'm 70 or 17. Love that. Recent purchases include knee-high laced Doc Martens-style boots. I've not developed a love of sensible clothing. I wear what feels right and fits right, and I love giving another life to high quality branded clothing that someone else no longer wants. 84844, keep your thoughts coming in. Is there a sudden change in spending, Kate?
It's not sudden, no. Actually, the spending power has been there for quite some time. In fact, McKinsey, who were quoted just recently, I think you mentioned earlier, this 5% more propensity to spend amongst these baby boomers, of which I'm nearly one, is seen as the opportunity where we've seen a 5% drop in millennials. McKinsey were reporting in 2007 actually, that they saw the growth of the 50 plus consumer. They would be leading the economy. So we've seen this, and we've also seen this almost tokenism in advertising before. LVMH, the group who actually own Louis V, in 2016, I think, were using actresses of a 70 plus age range. But actually, does it cut through? That's the thing. We need credibility. You know, things can be in and out, and I'm sure Alexandra will tell us all about that. Colours can be in and out, shape can be in and out. Age shouldn't be in and out. The respect and authenticity that's needed from brand to consumer should be consistent all the way through.
Well, let's bring Alexandra in to give us her thoughts. Morning, welcome to the programme, Alexandra. What were
Morning.
your first thoughts when you saw the pictures? Something to be celebrated or something to be wary of?
Well, I think some of them are great and some of them less so. I kind of agree with everything that Kate said. I think it's very easy to see this kind of use of much older models to sell luxury brands as a bit of a gimmick. I have to say, I mean, Maggie Smith in Loewe, I mean, she looks at least 20 years older than she actually is. I mean, there's this kind of thing whereby you can be really, really old for fashion, but what you can't be is kind of middle-aged. And I think that's one of the areas where I have a bit of a problem. I think when you've got somebody like Mary Berry for Burberry, I mean, it's a lovely idea, but really there is no real connection between her and Burberry. Whereas Phoebe Philo at Celine in 2016, I hadn't realized that LVMH had sort of done it before, but she had Joan Didion, the writer, as her sunglasses model. And I think that had a real kind of authenticity because Didion always wore sunglasses and Celine was aimed at a kind of cool intellectual women. I think it very much depends whether there's a real connection between what the brand is and the person they're using. Age to me is kind of irrelevant. I mean, that connection can be there with a 20-year-old or it can be there with an 80-year-old. I'd like to see more kind of 50-year-olds being included in the mix.
Why do you think they've done it then?
Because we're talking about it. I mean, they in the campaign with Maggie Smith, they had, I think it was 4 young models, of which nobody has mentioned a single one of them. They were an equal part of the campaign. But Maggie Smith and Loewe got front page headlines. I mean, they're doing it to attract attention. That's what advertising is about. It's to attract attention to the brand.
I just wonder why they don't aim. I mean, let's get into this a little bit because, Kate, why are they not aiming at that certain middle-aged demographic that Alexandra's talking about? Because the older demographic have always had spending power. This isn't anything new, is it?
It isn't new, and some recent research came out at the start of the year. Just listen to this from an organisation called Bias Cut. 88% of women 50 plus feel they are poorly represented in all media. And they even created some stock images. Stock images are kind of library shots, so that when an article's written and maybe you don't have an image for it, you can slot in a picture that's relevant. There was even within stock images a huge amount of that age group missing. I feel like I've entered the age of invisibility and I'm 47. And I think, it makes sense for fashion houses to realise the opportunity because, of course, what's happening, if you feel this way at this age, younger women are going to fear aging because they're going to feel that invisibility is on the horizon. So there's financial sense behind it. And therefore, I've got to think about the boardrooms I've been in, even the factory floors I've worked on internationally. Were body shapes of a 30 plus women being monitored, understood as we go through changes physically to make shape and size and fit done? I've never seen that happen. I've never witnessed that. Have I heard the voice of the consumer at that age group represented fairly within the culture of an organisation? Very rarely seen it happen. And if you start digging into the amount of CEOs that we've got, the diversity piece, there is a long way to go.
Alexandra, you were editor-in-chief of British Vogue for 25 years. Do you think you had enough older models on the pages?
Well, we certainly had enough older women included in the magazine because it was something that I felt very strongly about. I think everybody kind of liked to try and bang the gong for what they're part of. So I was very, very keen. It was one of my big things was to try and show women of all ages wearing fashion. But I think that it is quite complicated because people talked a lot about a magazine for older women, for instance, launching. Why are there no magazines for older women? Well, older women don't want to read a magazine for them. Why are there no shops for the older market? Nobody wants to go into a shop for an older market. We don't want to be siloed in that way. And I disagree with Kate about the invisibility thing. I mean, I sort of feel like actually there are a lot of great women, older, out there doing interesting things now, sort of more and more. We've got a long way to go, but there still are. So I think there's kind of hope. But as far as actual fashion is concerned, and sort of fashion imagery, which in a way is what we're talking about, that again is a complicated thing. I always, I'm quite a sucker. I was looking the other day in a catalogue at a beautiful young blonde girl wearing a velvet trouser suit. And I thought, yeah, that trouser suit's really nice. And I know I'm not going to look like her if I buy that trouser suit, but she looked so great in it, it propelled me to want to buy it. So I think we have to be realistic about people not only wanting to see representations of themselves to be sold things.
What do you think, Kate?
I didn't say that there weren't over 45 women not doing brilliant things. I just want to hear more of them. And I do want to see my body shape and size represented in the clothes, because if we look at even the basics from a commercial element of it, returns is one of the biggest issues online retail companies face, and the returns are because of sizing, fit and issues. So if you see something that you can see realistically how it fits on you, then you're going to buy something you feel better about and hopefully connect more with. And I think it's also about putting confidence in a different way. It's going back to that piece of the credibility, actually layering in a spirit within these organizations that isn't just about selling. It's actually about interacting and engaging. And as we see brands get savvier through social media, it's conversational rather than just a heightened identity of a brand telling us what we will wear or won't wear or can wear or can't wear. It's got to be this immersive piece where we as consumers feel the power of our purse actually connects with these brands and feels like we're actually being respected. And I think that's the majority of feedback I get back from research. We just want to feel respected and part of the decision making.
And what do you think to that, Alexandra? Or are we missing the point of high fashion, which is, as you said, it's aspirational. We are meant to look at these photographs and admire youth, beauty, and until very recently, white beauty.
I think there's so many ideas that we're unpicking here. It's really kind of, the question of older women's place in society and the question of luxury brand advertising are really two completely different things. So as far as luxury brands are, I think that they just want people to buy. They're not really interested in, they want to promote their goods. Obviously, they like the idea that people kind of feel invested in the idea of them, but they feel invested in a brand that I think is aspirational. When you come into the more attainable middle market where we're all shopping, the Zaras, the Uniqlos, or whatever, there's a very different thing going on there. And there I feel like the customer does want to feel like they're part of the conversation. But I think I would say that we have to credit with the consumer with a certain kind of intelligence at understanding what they're looking at. Whatever age you are, you're going to have a problem with fit and returns. I mean, I think we all see teenagers buying from ASOS, piles of things coming in, piles of things going back. So the returns thing is a very different thing. I think people are used to an idea that you interpret images. You don't have to be told that they are exactly what you are applying to your beliefs and criteria. But, that's my feeling about it. I guess I edited a luxury magazine.
Yeah. That's exactly what we want to hear from you. What loads of people are getting in touch with us about their relationship to fashion. I'm 61 and love fashion. I own a shoe shop and sell boots to age range 20 to 75. Age should not be an issue when you consider clothes. When my daughter, age 26, visits from Athens, she doesn't bring anything and wears all my clothes. That's nice. You've obviously got a fantastic wardrobe. I absolutely love my clothes. I tend towards a vintage look. And as a young woman in my 30s, I tend to buy secondhand because I can't afford to buy new on a regular basis. But something I love seeing is older women embracing their natural beauty, particularly the likes of Helen Mirren, Diane Keaton, and their stunning silver hair. So glamorous and an inspiration generation to the younger generations. And Marilyn says, I just want a bra. As a large, busted, mature woman, I would like a bra that actually fits and is comfortable. Let's get another one in here. I love clothes and always have done. Now I'm 82. I'm blissfully happy in my corduroy dungarees, which has pockets in all the right places and it's not tight around my tummy. I'm still thinking about you saying, Kate, that you felt invisible at the age of in your mid-40s when it comes to fashion.
Yeah, I'm around the fashion industry and I'm around advertising a lot. I'm a geek behind the scenes. I do the numbers, I crunch the numbers, but I still want to feel as if I've got an opportunity to speak. I've worked incredibly hard to get to this point in my career, and I'd like my voice to be heard and the voice of my peers to be heard. I'm incredibly respectful of everyone you've got on the programme today. I love this programme. I love listening to those voices. I just want to hear them more in mainstream media. Look, I just to go back to Alexandra's point, businesses are commercial. They're about profit. They're not about doing the right thing necessarily. But the realism is consumerism is getting more educated, more emotionally intelligent. And if you want to cut through as a brand, you're going to have to start thinking about doing things properly, because you're going to see, the consumers will see through it. If it's flimsy, they will see through it.
Oh, yeah, particularly the Radio 4 listeners. Alexandra, whilst I've got you on, I've got to ask you about the big cuts and changes that have taken place at Vogue since you've left. They've axed the job of British editor-in-chief. There's no longer a bespoke French Vogue. British Vogue has also now left its famous office, Vogue House in London. What have you made of the changes?
Can I just say no comment?
If you want to, or you can give me an answer.
No, I mean, I think, all publishing companies are having to look at the way they operate. It's not true. There is a bespoke French Vogue, by the way. I think it's really sad that the international Vogues are becoming more merged together. One of the great things about editing Vogue was that it was very much a sort of reflection of the different cultures. It was its strengths. I don't quite understand the rationale for thinking that magazines can have a kind of global identity, but if you want to cut staff, I guess that's the way to do it. I'm kind of pleased I'm just not having to edit the magazine while it's happening.
Well, we've really enjoyed speaking to you this morning. Thank you, Alexandra Shulman and Kate Hardcastle.